But through high school and stuff like that, I really noticed that that women's roles are changing, but guys are still rather traditional in their positions. And I always found it very unfair the way that it's not only that they're doing their own traditions, but people really expect that of it. And a few months ago, I found somebody sent me a link to somebody from the men's rights movement. And so yeah, I got into that. And Warren Farrell is, some of them go a little bit wild on it, but Warren Farrell is pretty balanced. There are things in there that I wouldn't fully agree with, or look into more. But yeah, he's really good on it. On the idea that men don't have this wild amount of power that we tend to say they do. So yeah, what do you guys think? Do we actually, in the way we function, do we value men less than we claim to? Are they in this grandiose position of power, or?
Men as unpaid protector. I think that, wouldn't that be going back to biological caveman days where if the woman and the baby survive, it continues the human race? And so he's going to stand, like he's going to protect his, his offspring. And that would be what she can provide, I guess, because she's a womb. And of course, the man that therefore is not going to be attractive as a victim, or he's not being a very, how good a protector is he? I think that a lot of women are looking for a man. Like there's many different ways that women are looking for a man to keep safe. It's always about safety, either safety financially, safety from boredom, safety from muscle, whatever kind of safety. There's different, in this day and age, there's different versions of different things that people are looking for. But it always boils down to girls are looking for one way or another, the guys keeping them safe in this one area. So I think that some of this stuff is very biological and innate and goes way back to caveman and roots, and you can't just decide to change that. Can I say any others?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. War. And women stay home and women don't have as many obligations going off to war. I think that if you had a small community, let's say back caveman again, because you have to go back to the basics of biology, and you have the alpha male kind of and beating his chest, and you have a whole bunch of other males and women, and then their tribe is going to get attacked by another tribe, or they have to invade another tribe, or they'll starve, something like this. Of course, they're going to take the men and have them go to war, because one or two males in a tribe can populate, can breed with all the women and produce more offspring. So they are more disposable in this way, and it's just biology. And again, another one, slaves. Okay, Incas taking slaves or whatever, and the men's forced to work and do labor and lift things. Well, probably the women are forced to have sex and become incubators for the next offspring. So that's just what guys happen to have more muscle density. So this is, of course, a natural role. And of course, it's going to be all about survival. When it comes down to it, it's all about survival of the species. And yeah, in this day and age, we don't need that as much. But I don't think it's going to change our inner biology and the things that people look for. I don't think you can just change that. And I don't think it makes men these horrible victims. And I don't know, he just sounds a little bit like he's a little bit of a whiner and somebody busting.
But I think that's the same thing that a lot of people say about feminists. People say, "Oh, she's just complaining," right?
Sure.
I think it's okay. First of all, they're only okay, unless you count transgender, there are really only two genders, and the whole discussion, like, okay, it makes sense when you say that all people, all humans, whether they're male or female, no matter what their skin are, they're have the possibility of being abused or the possibility of being misused or whatever. It's not like there's really a third gender. I mean, or if there was a third gender, maybe they would be saying the same thing. I don't know. I get a lot of what the guy is saying. It's just, yeah, I wonder how much of it he's just making up. I mean, obviously you have to make stuff up to be able to discuss it. You have to start a new theory to be able to discuss that theory. But anyone else like to add something?
On the idea that women, the caveman sort of scenario where the women had to take care of the children and carry on the species and stuff like that. And yeah, one guy can do the job of many as far as your population goes, right? In those days, that was totally a thing, and in many ways that has continued on. And Warren Farrell talks about it as in stage 1 technology, stage 2 technology. So because our technology has so widely changed, and a lot of old roles we don't need to have, they don't need to be so strict. We don't need the strict old roles to be to survive. And that's greatly why women's roles in the world have changed so wildly in this, what they call stage 2 technology. So in stage 2 technology, we don't need men as much to be the protector and stuff like that. There's a lot of stuff that we can do, like go out and make our own money, blah, 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 blah. There's a lot of different things that we can do that we're free to do now. Sure. That's a lot easier for women to participate in. But men are still expected to have all of these old roles. I mean, with a draft, it doesn't. I'm a pretty sturdy person, I think. When it comes, if I were around in the 70s, there were women that were allowed to volunteer to go over to Vietnam. They didn't do combat roles, but they were in various positions in the military. But nobody was drafted. They wouldn't even question women, despite the fact that any man, as long as you don't have a serious condition, you're going. Right? And yes, you are on the front lines to be killed. They didn't even screen women at all. Not even for support roles.
Well, that's the thing. There are only 2 sexes. You can't send the dogs. You can't send the robots because there aren't any. Somebody has to go. Practically speaking, somebody has to do something. I could imagine if everyone just sat around going, "You do it. No, you do it. You're the woman. You do it. You're the man. You do it."
So, okay, in history, we've decided that men go. But what if we just sort of up the standards and weaker guys don't have to go, and women under this standard also don't have to go, and we can get the same number of people, just up the standards of who, what level of able-bodiedness.
These are things that can be changed in the future.
Yeah, Israel does the drafts, right? You were saying that you run in men.
Yeah, since there are women in the army now, less than men, but maybe in the future there will be more than men. You never know how it will change.
Yeah.
Or the same number. Or maybe the government will bring some laws and say equal number of men and women.
Does that still apply? I mean, isn't it the army is just like, you join the army, you can't be just drafted like randomly.
No.
The last one in America was in the 70s.
Yeah. But the assumption is if there is need, anybody can be drafted, right? That's the current law.
In the States, women still don't have, still are not drafted. However, last year, the reason why they said women don't have to go in the draft is because women are not allowed in combat roles anyway. However, last year they changed the law and women are now allowed in combat roles. So if America gets into a war where they have to draft again, who knows?
I think there could be issues with that. I mean, there's this genetic coding that's going to take over and override. Imagine you're in a ditch and there's some women there and there's some men there, and men make an irrational decision because there's a woman out there and go do something to rescue her because they have this genetic coding on this rescue. You know what I mean? There's going to be issues and problems coming from that.
Historically, there are many cultures that able-bodied women would go out and fight.
Sure.
Celts, Vikings.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. The Amazons.
Israelis.
There you go. The Israelis are currently.
Everybody passes the volunteer duty in the military.
Yeah, but I think they had different, like, the men had to do 3 years, the women 1 year, so it's still different. I mean, that was maybe a long time ago, I don't know now.
But they are involved in combat sort of things. Yeah. Are they? Did you run into any women that had to shoot a gun sort of thing?
Sorry?
You said that you went to India and ran into a bunch of people that had.
From Israel.
Yeah.
Yeah. And but I think it's not really gender related. When I talk with you, this topic is not gender related. Just because they joined army before, and that is a very strict training for them. Yeah. So, but I do have a friend. She's from Israel, and she joined army before. Yeah. So I know there's women they have to join army in Israel. Yeah, but how long? I don't know.
Yeah. But I do think they are in combat. I did was talking with somebody that had been to India, and they were telling me about a girl who had shot a guy. So some guy coming in from Palestine. I don't know what it is. I think they do have combat roles. So it is maybe working. I don't know how it's going over there.
What's going to my take on it is that I like his theory, his hypothesis, and about disposability of men in terms of being in a war context. That is the case, and how did they get to war in the first place? By men who were making these decisions and who decided that these men were expendable. So I don't think he takes the male decision-making process in the public and political sphere to task for creating this society where men are disposable, especially in times of war. It reminded me a little bit of a couple of things. Down in Pindong, when you're going through the countryside, they put dogs in cages in the middle of a field, like beetle plantation, and its pure only function is to protect, basically, to bark if there are any intruders. And also. This reminds me of like security guards. I saw this old man who was a security guard last night at 4 a.m. And that's what he's kind of like a one step up from that dog in a Pindong beetle plantation. Like his purpose, his function in society is only to kind of like have to be aware of the surroundings and report anything to the community. So a couple of my main points is yes. First of all, it doesn't take the male decision-making processes that went into it to task for creating a society, and also it doesn't have any prescription
liberals have freed us to do a lot of things, and it is, I agree with you, it is unbalanced. And say, for example, after a divorce, when women are given like half of the man's fortune or whatever, in celebrity cases or whatever, and if the man has any money, I think that in a lot of cases that it's not justified to do that, and that's not quite fair, like those laws. But who makes the law? It's men. So it's kind of a tautology there.
I believe that women represent 52% of voters in America. So, while not as many women make it into Congress or whatever, there are definitely congresswomen and what are you guys, senators? Yeah. So there are women there. But yeah, when it comes to who these people are trying to get to vote for them, playing to women is not a bad idea.
Yeah, and affirmative action would be great. That actually would solve the problem of maybe war. If women were drafted at equal numbers as men, then there would be a total outcry. Maybe we could stop war in the first place, which is a male-created phenomenon.
Okay, I think this is a little bit exaggerate because
What's too exaggerated?
talking about the male decisions in if you're talking about contemporary society, the male decisions were dominant maybe in the 19th before, like or until 50 years ago, let's say. But Margaret Thatcher was not a man, and she had very tough decisions, and Falkland Islands and all this stuff, and female decisions by Thatcher.
Yeah, but she's kind of an example of a woman acting
as a
just
man.
as ruthless and pretty much irresponsible as men do in terms of taking people's
Yeah, but in that case,
as a man.
now it turns out that the women who are involved in politics, they have to become male in their decisions. Otherwise, they wouldn't be
More
part.
hardcore than men.
And then how do we decide is this male or female politics? How do we decide if it's male or female politics?
Or is it just like achiever qualities and not like there's a certain amount of fight that you gotta have to get power. So if you got a lot of fighting, yeah, you might say, I want my country to go for it.
Yeah, equal power. I think say like I spent a year in Sweden, which had at that time the world's highest women's representation in politics, and it's a more humane society. So until there is pressing for equal representation, and then we're gonna see a society that's too masculine. It's balanced. And I wanted to mention a point about the caveman scenario. I think that in that scenario, it is very women have the role. I mean, she has to be the protector in the maternal relationship with the child. That is her role, and the man's protector role in helping hunt and stuff and protect the tribe. That gives him his role, and those are strengths actually. That's how we got here. That's how we survived. And so, if we want to take it into a more kind of, I think egalitarian society would be more, and see why he made it black and white, like he was talking about the matriarchal or a patriarchal society, but both of those are extremes. And so why doesn't he talk about like an egalitarian society? And also the fact that when we were in the caveman scenario, there wasn't enough of a population to be expendable. It was more when society started, with better agricultural practices, and that we were able to have enough of a population to make war on another population. But I find you have some interesting, intriguing, ideas. It's kind of amusing.
Well, I think that's what he was talking about with this idea of stage 2 technologies. With the technology, we are moving even beyond where we've been before.
What stage 2 technology?
It's the way that he separates the idea that we can, women can go in and do all sorts of roles that women used to do, all the stuff that was purely based on strength and stuff like that. We now have a lot of machines that women can go and do those roles. A lot of that's came during the World War II out of Mississippi sort of thing.
I think she had Are you done?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
the idea of stage 2.
All right. I think that she had a really good point with when she said that a long time ago in the caveman days, the men would fight for the small community, and now there's extra population, so women can now be expendable. But I think it's not about technology. I think it's about the fact that there are more people. There are too many people even for the world to support. So, okay, we can throw away men plus now some women. But if you went back to any kind of small size again, like a colony on a moon or something like this, then you're going to go back to that immediately.
Return to
the original
those roles of men's protector and woman protects the child. But one interesting thing that the so-called conspiracy theorists talk about is that war, in essence, creates like a blood sacrifice that brings down the energy of that place in the world, and they claim that that's why wars were waged in certain, the ley lines and power kind of centers in the world to bring down that energy and by the powers that be, people that really run the place who are making it and sending everybody to war like lambs to the slaughter, literally.
I think it's culturally actually. This thing like if a woman has her career working and earning money more than certain men, more than most of the men, like everybody would say, oh, she's successful and she's doing great. If she didn't do that, nobody would say anything because anyway she's a woman. But if a man doesn't do that, something's wrong. Man, you should try harder. So you feel the culture. Well, I don't know how it's in the West, or I mean I even forgot how it's in my country. But here, I think here there is still this possibility, this disposableness of men. They're still thinking in this way. And, sorry?
I think it's very strong here.
Yeah,
guys
yeah,
on the
yeah,
track,
yeah.
they have to take care of the brain.
And they will clearly say, you're a man, you have to do this. Even we are in 21st century with all this feminist stuff going on, they dare to say that. They say, you are a man, you have to do it. You're a woman, you have to do it. And that's it.
The girls are really strong still.
Anyway, but you know, you can explain the 21st century and blah 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 blah. They will listen. Okay, so you're a man, you have to do this, and the woman have to do this.
Yeah, I know I would say the risk in discussing this topic is the difficulty to escape stereotyping, right? Because it's always like, okay, like as if, okay, all men want to fight and all women don't want to fight, which is not the case. And another thing about this like roles of like men and women, it's not that they are perpetuated within like a gender community. Like women, some women would expect men to have this role, right? Actually, if we, I don't know, like I can't really say most of or how many, right? And it would also depend, on the culture, on the country, on the dominant culture of that country, right? Or ethnic group, whatever. So, like you give the example of Sweden, right? And the role of women. Well, I will give you a similar example that actually disproves that involvement of women necessarily guarantees equality. In my country, which is Macedonia, women have constitutional right of like guaranteed 1/3 of seats in the parliament. Every political party, when they announce their candidates, 1/3 has to be women among the top, I don't know what percentage, because you can make a list of 100 and then put the women on the bottom. No. So this would guarantee that at least 33% of the parliamentary representatives would be women. But, as Alex mentioned, like the culture is still patriarchal. The government is conservative and promotes patriarchal values. So those women are also promoting these kind of values, So it's kind of, okay, so actually, it looks great because, they're women and, but they don't necessarily share that, they're not necessarily feminists, and even though they don't have to be feminists, that's not my point, but they think, or some of them might still promote that kind of society because they think that that's the, those are the cultural values. Men are here and women are there.
What is it only 1/3? Why don't they do 1/2?
I don't know.
That's the only way. Maybe they know that these values are surfacing in the society. That's why they promote it. And in this way they can earn more votes.
In a way, to be honest, it does change the society because as opposed to, let's say, 10, 20 years ago, now people are actually used to seeing women in the parliament. So it's becoming kind of very normal that a woman is a politician. Or a woman is, let's say, a minister, and has been for years and years, a minister of interior. So they call her the first cup. And so I guess, you can go, it could be kind of like soft power, right? So
ain't got no home, ain't got no shoes, ain't got no money, ain't got no class, ain't got no skirts, ain't got no sweaters, ain't got no perfume, ain't got no love, ain't got no faith. I ain't got no culture, ain't got no mother, ain't got no father, ain't got no brother, ain't got no children, ain't got no aunts, ain't got no uncles, ain't got no love, ain't got no mind. I ain't got no country,